Non-conformity in the 1950s. From the end of World War II, cultural policy was considered more important. Immediately after the war, some freedom was given to artists. For example, there was a public performance of unorthodox poetry in 1946. This was allowed by the government and greatly enjoyed by the audience. However, by the end of the year, Zhdanov, the Leningrad party boss, started the Zhdanov's China campaign, which clamped down on Western influences and was driven by xenophobia and the mounting tensions with America. When Stalin died, the cultural situation did not allow for freedom and people were hopeful for change. Under the Stalinization, people believed there would be a change to culture. Their hopes were far from fulfilled. However, some previously banned books and pieces of music became available again. This did not stop the writers of the time from using many different genres to critique the Soviet system, with the writer Sholokhov even describing the culture as great trash. The youth soon became full of nonconformists who were drawn to Western rock and roll and pop as well as Western fashion. From 1955, American music was broadcast in the USSR by the Voice of America, an American radio station. To officials, these youths became known as styliagi and were viewed as rude and ignorant. People listened to non-government approved music at underground venues and through use of a tape recorder or by smuggled records. Tape recorder self-publishing became common and known as magnetizdat. Nonconformists saw little in the transition from Khrushchev to Brezhnev, as he initially did little to change cultural policy. Some key aspects of culture that developed under Brezhnev were that, culture developed a conservative nature, with this being as dangerous to talk about sexual themes as it was to mention political ideas. The village prose became a popular genre which romanticized the rural life and in turn criticized the urban Soviet ideas. Russian nationalism in literature also grew in popularity. Despite the fact it was initially encouraged, it soon became so xenophobic it was viewed as a criticism of the Soviet Union. The youth were more drawn to Western music than ever, which by now was mainly rock and disco. The Politburo, which was largely old men, struggled to understand the appeal and controlled the production and airtime. This was largely useless due to the ease of home recording by 1980. In China, nonconformists were not so much restricted by the government but more by the people themselves. The introduction of communal living through collectivization made it harder for people not to conform. As people ate, slept and worked together, there was no time alone, so those who didn't conform would be recognized and most likely called out at a struggle meeting or reported to the cadres. The 100 Flowers campaign in 1957 effectively got nonconformist intellectuals to reveal themselves, and they were often put in the lagai as a result. Although people would have been called out in struggle meetings throughout Mao's leadership, aspects of culture were targeted in 1966. Foreign influence was targeted as part of the purge on capitalist traders. This meant people who had Western or even Russian influences could be called out. The Four Olds campaign did the same for old Chinese culture. Nonconformity was best dealt with in China through the use of mass mobilization campaigns. In the USSR, without this tactic, it became increasingly hard to control culture, and the policy surrounding it slowly became more and more relaxed. The policy most likely became less strict due, not only to the leaders becoming more relaxed, but also to the advancements in technology which make restricting culture and the spread of ideas increasingly difficult.